Alright, so this is my project. My name is Patrick Donovan, and my project is the Hurricane Storm Shelter. It is a project that is meant to help save lives in the event of a hurricane making landfall in an area where people are and they cannot evacuate. So, what is this project? So, the Hurricane Shelter is a shelter that's designed to be brought to people who are unable, whether it's a disability, they do not have a car, or they're unwilling to leave, and before a hurricane impacts an area of land. So what the shelter is a standard 50. That means it is a 50-foot long boxcar that is insulated and it is waterproof. Um, it's also going to be dropped off at people's places. Alright, so the most important part of this project was the engineering process. What this process does is allow you to do research, find out what you want to do. That comes from asking. Then when you research, you just look up information related to your topic, and you imagine, you try to find a solution, and you plan, you create your solution, and you test it, and then you go back and improve it. This was super important to the process and still is. Alright, logistics. So the delivery of the shelter is going to be based on a registration system. What you will do on an annual basis is you're going to register, be like, hey, this is my name, this is my phone number, this is where I live, and you also put down how many people in your family, and if you have any special conditions. I have a disabled arm, I can't use it. I have diabetes, or I'm lactose intolerant. That way they can take that into account when delivering your shelter with food in it. That way they don't give you like peanut butter if you're allergic to that, and that'll make the situation completely worse. So during registration, as I said, they're going to be required to put conditions down. And for the people that do not register, there will be a limited amount of extra shelters for, like, if people moved into the area and didn't know about this, they can request one of the emergency shelters, but they have to do it before 12 hours of landfall of the storm. What this does is, before 12 hours, they can drop it off, and it gives the driver who is delivering the shelter enough time to get out of the way of the storm. So that way he's safe and the family can get inside and put anything they need in there. And the reason there's limited is because logistics, they don't want to have so many of these shelters just laying around, but at the same time they want to be able to help people who didn't know or are new to the area. You can also register off of those specific dates, but it may not go through. The registration may not comply in time before the storm. So why is it a boxcar? I chose a boxcar because they're spacious areas. You can fit a lot of people in there. They're forgiving in size. They weigh a lot, which is important to sustaining the wind and just not being flipped over. And my dad asked me, why a boxcar over a cargo container? Well, turns out, even though cargo containers are way cheaper, they flip easily in the wind. So they flip before a storm even reaches category 2. They flip around 90 miles per hour, and category 2 starts at 95. And boxcars can go a bit over 120 miles per hour. Regular boxcars with the wheels underneath, but these do not have the wheels. Alright, This is an image of the shelter and the layout. As you can see, there is a bathroom, there is doorway where the two lines are in the middle on the top part. There are cots, and there's a few other things in there as well. So this is the basic model that I used for testing. As you can see, the door is a drop down. It's a ramp. That way it's easier for people to access, and it just folds back in. It is designed to be to the size, a 1 to 50 scale of the actual model, with all the proper lengths. So testing the wind tunnel. I built a wind tunnel in February. So what this did, it was you put the model in there, and I dropped talcum powder. Of all the things, I used talcum powder. I was originally planning on using dry ice, but my dad recommended talcum powder because dry ice would cause some problems where it could get the wind tunnel and the stuff I put in it, which I will show in the next few slides. It could get that wet, and it could also get the basic model wet, which could cause some degradation of the model. And the talcum powder leaves residue behind, so you will see exactly where the wind is strongest, where most of it is going with the wind tunnel, and if there's any problems. So this is the wind tunnel. You can see a fan right there. This fan has 3 settings of low, medium, high, and at the top there's cardboard over that. That way it catches the wind and brings it into the tunnel and prevents it from just flying over. And this is the inside. What all those toilet paper rolls are doing is to prevent, it's to funnel the wind. It's supposed to create a wind tunnel effect like they have in cities, like in New York City. The wind is funneled through the streets between buildings, and that is speeding up the wind. So that is what that is supposed to do. Alright, so back to the engineering process. I originally had a completely different design, and the issue here was this design was becoming too big and too complicated to where it couldn't be dropped off fast enough before a storm. Like, this was becoming a full-on shelter, not like a portable one. This was becoming like its own building. I had it based off of a dome house, which was actually really neat to find out about. There are hurricane-proof homes where certain parts of the building are designed to fall away from a storm. Usually the garages and the staircase underneath, and it just lets the water flow through underneath. And the dome itself is aerodynamic, so it can't catch any wind. That was my original thinking, but eventually this got to the point where a few of the iSTEM classmates were like, hey, this is too big. How are you going to deliver this within a reasonable amount of time and get it set up? And that just got me. So, what did this do? What did this project do for me? Definitely learned a lot about time management, as that has been an issue I've had, and it helped teach me a bit more about it. It's always important. Got to learn about railroads. I learned about a few of the procedures that they've done for storms. I've also learned how they assess damage. And I was doing that while researching, trying to find out policies for railroads, as an idea of how do the railroad companies handle storms. And it reinforced values of adapting to situations. Like in the previous slide showing my original design, I had to just completely trash that idea, and that wasn't easy, but I was like, yeah, they've got a point. I can't do this without restarting, and that was pretty hard to do because this was already months into the project by this time. But as I was going through afterwards and I switched to this shelter, um, there's just always ways I could improve the project I didn't think of. But that's one thing Mr. Davidson stresses is you can always go back and improve your project no matter what, but you need to find a date line to cut off because otherwise you're just going to spend all your time just engineering. All right? And thank you for your time. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below or email me at padonovan@fcps1schools.net.